Hello, this is Christian. In this video, we're going to go and implement the insert operation for this little CRUD operation program. Now, last time we created select statement, so when you click on select, it takes you to the select page and it loads this data from the database. Now, our database in MySQL database, you can see we have 4 records we added last time. Okay, and then so now we're going to go to the insert and implement that page there. Let's go into PHP Storm. So this is the select page. I'm just gonna use this same page since it has most of the setup already for the insert. Before I do that though, maybe like in the bottom here somewhere, I'm gonna add another link just to take us back to the home page. Okay, so put a simple a link here, go back to the index, and just put here home. Okay, so we'll leave that there. All right, so I'm going to copy this, Control C, Control V, and then change it to insert. All right, so for the insert, let's build a form first. I'm not going to need all these. Okay, we don't need all of that. We just basically build a very simple form to insert. tr. So we just need basically 4 fields, one for each of these, right? So the first field would be an input for the name of ID. This is the ID field, and I'm just going to Control D 3 times. This is the title, credits, and then grade. And then we have to turn this to a form, so I'll put maybe right above the table here a form, and we'll close that right down here below the table. So that means after the table, we're going to put another input here for the submit. Okay, and we'll also give it a name because we need that to be checked. Submit. Okay, and if you want to format this nicely, you can do it by going to code and reformat code, or Control Alt L will also do that for you. All right, so that should look good, I guess. It should fit, and we can change that to say insert. Okay, let's go and see what this looks like in the browser first. So I'm going to go and refresh this, and here's our insert page. So we insert course title here, and when we click submit, I'm going to give a little bit of room here. We click submit, it's going to load the same page like it did here, and we can check the submit value, right? To make sure that it's been submitted. If that's the case, then we can go ahead and process the data. So in the selection here, add the home link, and insert will take us to the page here. So let's go and do that operation. So we're down here at the bottom. Okay, so the form looks good. I'm going to put this to a div. I noticed the input, the submit button was a little bit too tight. So put that inside here and we'll tab it over. All right, so on the very top here, we got the database connection. I'm going to create another variable for success. This will be set to false by default. That means if it's successfully inserted, then we'll just check it and then show the message. Also, maybe like, okay, so we're going to check for the post. Make sure that's been set, and I'll use the post instead of the get. And I'm going to check the submit button. Okay, if that's been clicked, then that means that's been set. If that's the case, then we go ahead and process it. So all the fields I'll be receiving are just those 4 fields: course IDs, ID, title, credits, and grades. Okay, so they'll be set right here. So put ID is equal to post ID, and I'll just duplicate this 3 times. This will be the title, credits, and grade. Okay, so it changes to grade and title. So those are set. And if I spell this correctly, okay, so once we are done, then we need to do an insertion, and by doing that, you need to set a query query is equal to, say, insert into the table called table. We remember if you had that in the previous file in the database, right? And then we add in the values. The values be coming from the ID. So each of those we wrap with a single quote. Everything will be in string, even numbers. Then the title, and then credits, and the value from the grade. Again, I'm not checking these data at all. Okay, usually you want to validate these data, make sure they are actual data, and they're valid data. Also, the ID here, we know that it has to be unique, right? So if you put duplicate data, that should generate an error. So we're just going to end the statement here, and then finally we're going to submit it to the query. So MySQL query, this will be the connection string followed by the query. And you notice my ID tells me this is too old, striked out, so just put I here. And then we need to check the query, right? If the result is successful, if that is true, then I want to set the success to true. And maybe we'll add a message here. Message will be equal to blank. And we'll add the message saying equal to successfully inserted, something like that. So we know if that's not the case, if there's an error, then there's the else part. Else successful will be false anyway, but we add a new message to say, oops, something went wrong, right? And maybe we'll put another error flag here to say true. And so we add another one up here. So you see, you do this as you go, right? And sometimes you can have this way ahead before you code, but sometimes you add this as you go. So I get error message here. It sets to true only when we go to this path. Otherwise, it'll be false by default. Okay, so I got all my logic done up here. Haven't tested yet, but we'll assume this will work, right? And then down here, the form, when I need to show this form here, I'll put right in here. Either that or yeah, I'll put above it, is whether you should show the form or not, depending on the flags up there, right? So you can check for a few things. You can say if the success is true, that means successful, then go ahead and echo the message. Okay, otherwise it's not successful. That means the whole thing will be displayed. So I'm going to close that here. Display everything here all of the end of this div tag here. So I'm going to close it right here. This is the end of that if block. And again, press Ctrl Alt L to reformat your code so it's perfectly aligned, indented nicely. And then we also need to show the error message if there's an error. So that means it only occurs when the successful was not true. So that means it's down here. So we have another like if block here, right? So if there's an error, then we also want to show the error message. And at the same time, we also show the form again so they can be inserted. All right. So let's see. Let's save this and see what happens. Well, actually, I had to say the form here and not complete yet. So the action would be to go to itself. You can leave it blank, or you can just say the insert. No, not index. Insert. And then the method would be set to post. All right. So that's a form. And let's go and run this. Okay, I'm going to go to select, start over again, insert. All right, I'm not going to put anything here. Just click submit. And you see the message say it's kind of tight, but successfully inserted. And we can check in the database. Just refresh your database here. If it's correct, we should have a fifth record here. So there it is. There's no data. We didn't include that, but is given, right? It's set. The ID is just is empty space because that's how it is, right? And then if you go back and try to do it again, the same thing, no data, and you see we got an error. Is oops, something went wrong. You may wonder why. Well, the reason why is because we already have an ID of blank, and we're trying to insert the same ID again, so therefore the error will be we cannot add duplicate data. So if I remove this data, so we go back and you see that it's now empty, I can go back and do it again. It should be successful again, right? So that works just expected. And again, we're going to go back and delete this so that it's make more sense. Okay, so there we go. That's how we would do this. I'm going to add a new course. Let's just say 555. This would be a I don't know what it is, JavaScript. And this is a 3 credit. You get a B for this one. Submit. And let's go to the select statement. And you should see that JavaScript has been added to that page. So that is how you would do an insert for PHP. And again, I did not validate any of the input data, so normally you would do that, but this is just to show you how you do insert. So in the next video, we'll do the update and the delete.